A lone sod house near the edge of the prairie. Dakota Territory, 1871. Sod house, prairie dawn fog. The prairie slept under a heavy mist. Frost crusted the windows of the small sod cabin. A lonesome wind moaned across the plains like a widow's cry. Inside, the glow of a dying fire struggled to hold back the cold. Sod house, continuous. Nora Barnett, mid-30s. Hair tied back, eyes sharp from too many hard years, clutched a rusted rifle in her hands. Her dress was simple, patched at the knees. Beside her stood her eldest, Luke, 12. Face pale but determined, trying to be the man he wasn't ready to be. Behind them, Ellie, 9. Clutched little Sammy, 4. Close, both trembling in silence. Hooves thudded outside. 6, maybe 7 riders. Their shadows flickered across the frost-covered windows. Sod house. Moments later, a horseman dismounted, thick with mud and leather, a revolver hanging loose in his hand. This was Judd Crane, a man with scars on his face and a voice like gravel. Judd Crane, openly, "Mrs. Barnett, we know your husband owed men. Dead or not, that debt still due." Sod house. Nora stood tall. Her rifle didn't waver. "Nora, you won't find anything here but hungry children and hard dirt." Judd Crane, OS. "Then we'll dig." A tense silence. The wind picked up. Somewhere, a raven called. Sod house. Judd made a hand signal. 2 riders pulled torches from their saddlebags. Another began to circle toward the barn. Sod house. Nora turned to Luke, knelt beside him. "Nora, no matter what happens, you keep them safe, Luke. You hear me? Luke." "Mama." "Nora, promise me." Tears welled in his eyes. He nodded. Then, crack. The first shot shattered the window. Nora returned fire. 1 shot, then another. But they were already moving, flanking fast. Boom. The door was kicked open. Smoke filled the cabin. Judd Crane. Last chance. Nora raised her rifle. BLM. A single shot. She dropped to the floor. Blood soaked the wood. The children screamed. Luke grabbed the rifle, but Judd kicked it from his hands and turned to the men. "Judd Crane, nothing here but orphans. Burn the barn. Let's ride." As fast as they came, the riders faded into the fog, torches behind them lighting the barn ablaze. Sod house, later. The wind whistled through the broken door. Luke knelt over Nora's body, holding her hand. He didn't cry. Not yet. Ellie did. Sammy just stared at the blood, unblinking. Backyard, later that morning. The children stood by a fresh grave. Luke had dug it with numb hands, scraping through frozen ground with a rusted shovel. Nora's body was wrapped in a quilt. They said nothing, just stood, cold, hollow. Luke planted a crude wooden cross at the head, carved with a pocket knife. Nora Barnett. Mother. Brave. He took a deep breath. "Luke, I'll take care of us. I swear." His voice cracked, but no one answered. Sod house, night. The children huddled around a small fire made from torn furniture. Luke kept glancing at the door, flinching at every gust of wind. Ellie coughed. Sammy whimpered in his sleep. Outside, the barn was gone, still smoldering. Their mule had fled. Their food, gone with it. They had 1 blanket and 4 potatoes. Luke, to himself, "I should have done something. I should have." He clenched his fists. His jaw trembled. He couldn't let them see him break. Ridge overlooking the house. Same night. Far above the cabin, a lone horseman sat still. Jonas Hawk, mid-40s. Sharp eyes under a worn hat. A long scar cut across his brow. His coat was tattered, military issue, stained by rain, dust, and blood. He watched the glow of the cabin fire, the grave, the children's shadows. He didn't move. He didn't ride away. Sod house. Next morning, Luke tried to start a fire with damp twigs. His hands were blistered. Ellie tried to feed Sammy, but he refused to eat. His small face was pale. "Luke, we'll find something. I'll hunt. I'll get a rabbit or—" He paused. What did he even know about hunting? His father had gone 2 years ago. His mother did everything. The world felt like it was collapsing inward. That's when he heard it. A distant neigh. A crack of hooves. Luke stood, reaching for the broken rifle. The door creaked. There, standing just outside the fence line, was the stranger. Jonas Hawk. Silent. Unmoving. Watching. Luke froze. Ellie. Whispering. "Who is he?" Luke didn't answer. He stepped forward, slow. "Luke, we ain't got anything left." Jonas said nothing. His horse stirred behind him. Then he slowly dismounted. From the saddlebag, he pulled a bundle wrapped in cloth. Something warm. Food. Jerky? A small pouch of cornmeal? He placed it on the ground and walked back to his horse. Luke stared, confused, suspicious. But Ellie ran forward, grabbed the bundle. Her eyes widened. "Ellie, it's food, Luke." Luke looked up again, but the stranger was gone. Prairie, late evening. Jonas rode quietly along the ridge, keeping to the shadows. The fire inside him long ago doused, except for this one flicker he hadn't expected. 3 children, alone in the wild. And he had stayed, not because he meant to, but because something in him wouldn't let him ride away. The burnt remnants of the barn, makeshift shelter, windswept fields, charred ruins of the barn, twilight, ash drifts like snow. The wind is sharp. The children huddle under a cracked lean-to built from fallen rafters. A small fire flickers at the center, barely warming their frostbitten fingers. Ellie, trembling. It's dying again. Luke throws in the last stick. "Luke, that's all we got." Suddenly, footsteps. A tall shape breaks the edge of the firelight. Jonas Hawk, mid-40s. Long coat frayed, hat low, eyes shadowed. He says nothing, just stands, smoke curling around his boots. "Luke, get away from us." Luke rises, shaky but brave, holding a rusty knife. Jonas doesn't flinch, doesn't reach for a weapon. Instead, he opens his coat and drops firewood beside the flames, then a sack of salted meat wrapped in deerskin. He turns to leave. "Sammy," quietly, "are you an angel?" Jonas pauses. His voice is a low, quiet rasp. "Jonas, no boy, just a man who remembers being cold." He disappears into the dark. Field near the cabin. Next morning. The sun rises cold and colorless. Jonas is already working, hammering makeshift posts into the ground. Using salvaged beams, he's rebuilding part of the barn as a shelter. Luke watches from the shadows, confused, suspicious. Later, Ellie brings him a pail of water. "Ellie, you don't have to do this." "Jonas, didn't say I did." She lingers a beat, then runs off. Prairie, montage, survival days. Jonas teaching Luke to set rabbit snares near a creek. Ellie gathering roots and dandelion greens as Jonas shows her which are safe. Sammy asleep on a wool blanket Jonas gave him, listening to Lakota lullabies sung so soft only he can hear. Jonas hanging a rabbit to dry. Luke watching silently, then grabbing a second blade to mimic his cuts. Ellie quietly sewing scraps into a small stitched satchel. She shyly places it next to Jonas's bedroll. They never ask for his story. He never offers. Shelter, night. Rain pelts the sod roof. The fire glows warm. Jonas sits apart, whittling a piece of bone. His eyes stare into memory. Flash of cannon fire. Screams. A child's hand reaching. Smoke. His hands shake. The carving breaks in two. Ellie notices, but says nothing. Small town outpost day. Jonas rides to town on a borrowed mule, face low under his hat. He enters the general store for flour. Locals eye him. Half-blood, strange, dangerous. Neighbor, they say you're hiding out with that dead woman's kids. Jonas turns slowly. Neighbor, CONT'd. People round here don't take kindly to drifters, especially your kind. Jonas drops coins on the counter, silent. Walks out. Sod house. Late afternoon. Jonas returns to find Luke trying to chop wood with a dull axe. He's failing. Jonas walks up beside him. Wordlessly takes the axe. Sharpens it with a whetstone from his belt. Then hands it back. Luke stares, then chops clean through the next log. He turns to Jonas. Luke, why are you helping us? A long pause. Jonas, because no one stayed for me when I was your age. The words sit heavy between them. Shelter night. Jonas kneels at the fire, stirring beans in a blackened pot. Ellie slides the stitched satchel toward him. Ellie, Mama taught me to sew. You can keep this if you want. Jonas looks at it. A beat. Jonas, look strong. He folds it, places it carefully beside him. Luke watches. He doesn't say a word, but his eyes soften. Prairie Ridge, next day. Jonas rides out, scanning the horizon with an old cavalry spyglass. In the distance, dust. More riders? He tenses. His hand goes to his rifle. Then he lowers it. Just wind and tumbleweeds. But he knows. The past always returns. Shelter. Dusk. Luke brings in 2 rabbits, proud. Ellie and Sammy cheer. Jonas says nothing, but nods once. The first true approval. Later that night, as they sit around the fire, Ellie hums the lullaby Jonas taught her. Luke leans toward him. Luke, you got a family, somewhere? A long pause. The fire crackles. Jonas, had one. Once. He pokes the coals. Jonas, Suanteed. They didn't make it through the war. Same way yours didn't make it through the peace. Luke looks down. Luke, sometimes I think if I'd been faster, stronger. Jonas, no boy should carry what grown men cause. Luke nods. Tears fight their way up, but never fall. Jonas reaches into his coat and pulls out a carved bone charm. Rough but beautiful. He hands it to Luke. Jonas, Suanteed. My father gave me that. Before he went off and never came back. Might not stop bullets, but maybe it stops you from blaming yourself. Luke holds it tight. Prairie night. A storm builds on the horizon. Jonas stands outside the shelter, coat flapping in the wind, watching the stars vanish behind clouds. He knows trouble is coming, but for the first time in years, he's not planning to run. He's planning to stay. Prairie Ridge, twilight. Lightning forks across the distant sky. Thunder rolls in its wake. Jonas stands on the ridge, spyglass in hand, body stiff. He lowers it. Jonas. They're back. Int. Shelter, moments later. Jonas busts through the door, voice hard. Jonas, get your things. Now. The children freeze. Ellie, is it them? Jonas nods once. Dead serious. Luke. Then we fight. Jonas kneels before him, gripping his shoulders. Jonas, you hide. In the root cellar. You keep your brother and sister safe. Luke. No. I can fight now. You showed me how. Jonas searches his eyes. Finally he nods. Jonas. Then stay low. Move fast. Don't hesitate. Homestead, dusk. Jonas moves like a ghost in the coming dark. He plants broken glass and nails beneath loose brush. Strings tripwires across fence posts. Buries a sharpened pitchfork, head first, near the trail. Tells Ellie to hold tight to the sharpened stick he made her. Gives Sammy a carved wooden horse and tucks him in the cellar. Hands Luke a pouch of hot coals wrapped in burlap. Jonas, if one gets past me, throw this at their face. Luke. Got it. A low thunder growls. But it ain't the storm. Hoofbeats. Dozens. Jonas walks to the gate, rifle in hand. Shadow long in the fading light. Field full moon. The raiders fan out. Rough men with blood-stained coats. Faces from nightmares. Leader raider. We heard Nora had gold buried out here. We'll take it from the graves if we have to. Jonas, calmly. Only thing you'll dig is your own. They laugh. Then the first man steps forward and trips the wire. A branch snaps overhead, spears down and impales him through the neck. Chaos erupts. Gunfire. Screams. The kids hide, trembling. Jonas fires from cover. Hits one in the leg. Another circles around. Sneaks to the shelter. Ellie waits inside, eyes wide. She lunges. Drives the sharpened stick into his side. The man screams and collapses. Outside, a raider grabs Luke, but Luke throws the hot coals into his face. The man shrieks, blinded. Jonas emerges, bleeding from the shoulder. He grabs the man, drives a blade into his ribs. Only the leader remains. Big, brutal, carries a hatchet. Jonas faces him. Leader, you should have run. Jonas, been running long enough. They clash, a savage, close fight. Fists, steel, blood. Jonas is wounded, stabbed in the side, but manages to knock the hatchet away. They wrestle in the mud. Jonas pins him, slams his fist again and again until the man goes limp. Silence, just the wind. Shelter, night. Smoke rises from the roof. A few boards are smoldering. Jonas leans against the porch rail, barely standing. Luke, you're bleeding bad. Jonas, I ain't leaving. Ellie, you promise? He nods weakly. Jonas, whispering, I promised your mama, even if I didn't know it yet. Luke presses torn cloth against Jonas's wound, trying not to cry. Luke, we'll fix you. Just don't die. Please. Jonas manages a crooked smile. Jonas takes more than a bullet to stop a hawk. They stay there, children surrounding him, as rain finally begins to fall. Brown Square epilogue daybreak. Months later, spring. Prairie homestead, morning light. The wind is soft. Grass tall and green. Wildflowers bloom where ash once lay. A new wooden sign hangs above the rebuilt doorway. Barnett, Hawk homestead. Ellie waters a flower bed planted over her mother's grave. Sammy rides a carved wooden horse Jonas made him. Luke helps Jonas, who now walks with a slight limp, build a new fence. The shelter is gone. In its place stands a real cabin, stronger than before. Cabin, same time. On the wall, above the hearth, hangs a bone carving. The one Jonas once gave Luke, now polished, proud. He came as a stranger in the dusk, but by the time the stars gave way to morning, he'd given us something more powerful than revenge. He gave us a family. If this story touched your soul, if you believe family is something we build, not just something we're born with, then hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs hope, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever found light in your darkest hour? Subscribe now for more powerful, true-to-the-heart frontier stories, where grit, love, and redemption ride side by side.